Saving Private Ryan.
Ah.
Amazing movie.
Nice music.
It did have nice music provided by John Williams. Yeah.
But
even he just made West Side Story remake, and I started watching the first few minutes of it, and I'm like, I'm out.
Well, that was weird because like, he made the original, right? No? I mean, he's earned the right to do whatever he wants, but I have the right as a moviegoer to not
watch
see
it, counselor.
Yeah.
You've earned the right, but that could be taken away at any time. It's with
like,
a few more of these stinkers.
I give a vote of no confidence to Chancellor Spielberg.
So this is how Hollywood career dies. This is how liberty dies. Thunderous applause.
They're like, dun-dun, dun-dun.
They're like, dun-dun, 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 dun-dun. He holds up like an orb.
And I'm like, this is the greatest thing Star Wars has ever done. Fucking, I had like Vaseline over my glasses. It's like, this is the greatest shit I've ever seen. It's like, okay. It's fucking Jaws week. I didn't even bring up the notes. I'm a fucking loser. You think something's a little different about me this week, Matt? What do you think it is? I can't breathe.
I don't know, chum.
Hopefully this episode doesn't bite.
No. We are getting a little bit long in the tooth.
Oh, speaking of which, we have to floss. The last episode is leaving a bad taste in my mouth.
Finn.
My favorite Star Wars character.
Yeah.
He was, actually, until they fucking destroyed him.
He started out terrible, but then got amazing by the end of the trilogy.
I'm like, woo! He's freaking awesome. Okay, I have to take this off just for a little bit, because I literally can't see anything. And I just saw the stream, and it was horrifying.
That's just great podcasting.
It was, and it is. Time to stall while I bring up my notes because I was so enthralled with watching other YouTube videos.
So, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, man. How about you?
All right.
I just saw you yesterday. We were hanging out, and you were telling me, how much you love movies. That is true, though. Movies are great.
Yeah.
This is episode 81. Mom, it finally happened. Mike turned into my pick of movie.
You turned into it?
I finally turned into a movie. My mom's dream. She's like, I'd rather have a movie than a son. I'm like, yeah. This is episode 81, and yeah, this was picked by my mother. Jaws.
Shark Week.
The movie Jaws was picked by my mother. My mother is not Jaws the shark.
What about the Bond henchman?
She's like, huh. And it is still summer, and it's Shark Week. And Shark Week, I think, just happened. So, but
it's official.
Yeah, Weird Watches was picked by you though, which is what is it this week?
Space, 1999.
Such a futuristic title.
Yeah.
And Jaws is the feature presentation.
Both of which came out in 1975.
Nice. That's the correlation.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the setup. Well, excuse me. I guess do you have anything else to really talk about in the preamble before we get into it?
Let's get into it. We got a lot to cover.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay. Nerd news. Updating.
Nerd news.
So, Nerd News is here. I'll go ahead and go first this week.
All
right. So I got a couple articles. I'll do one first. Here, they're in talks for, I guess, moving forward with a new Karate Kid movie, but it's not being handled by like the people that are doing Cobra Kai. So it's probably
another remake.
Suck. Yeah, it's like Sony is doing it, and they've been on a wonderful streak with all these like Spider-Man offshoots that like nobody likes, like Mordecai.
Did anyone like the last?
Mobius. What the fuck is Mordecai?
Is that Johnny Depp movie where he had that weird mustache
Yeah.
that no one saw?
Mordecai. Sounds like a fucking demon.
What about the last? They just did a remake like 10 years ago with Jackie Chan.
Yes, yeah, that is true.
Did you see that one?
I did.
Was it any good?
I saw it because I like Jackie Chan, but that's about it. Like,
I like Jackie Chan, but not enough.
It had this weird thing where like Jackie Chan like was like the Mr. Miyagi, obviously, of like the show or the movie, and like his wife and his like son or daughter died in a car crash, and every year he would like rebuild the car and then beat it up. I was
Street
like,
Fighter 2 style.
What? Made no sense.
We're just gonna keep seeing more of this. The remakes,
Yeah.
the remake cycle is just getting faster and faster. So
Faster and faster.
Yeah.
But I guess they're kind of doing the same thing they kind of did. This one is like they're like. I totally saw that this was like a Sony idea too, because like even though, I mean, well, obviously it says it, but like the whole idea is like a 17-year-old male like Chinese actor, because it says Sony's looking for a 17-year-old male Chinese actor is both Mandarin and English. The character is referred to as Lee and is said to be small for his age, but he's like, you know, great at karate or whatever. But the whole thing that they're like flipping it on here is it like he meets like some girl and like he trains the girl's dad in karate, and the girl's dad is like a pizza owner. And I was like, so it's like if Daniel trained Mr. Miyagi.
okay.
Which is like, I guess, kind of an interesting flip, but just to flip something doesn't mean it's going to be good. Like, I could tell in the boardroom somebody was like, what if we took Karate Kid, we rebooted it, and like a Chinese kid trained like a pizza guy? Like, what if we flipped it instead of like the adult training, it's the kid training? And they were like, it's fucking great.
Is this like Baby Geniuses
Yeah.
or something?
And I'm like,
It could be, I mean, I'll reserve judgment, but that
won't, because Sony sucks.
Well, that's true.
The problem is, like, I don't think that idea inherently is bad. I think who's in charge of it is, like, they're doing it just, like you said, to... Whereas, like, if it was the people that were doing Cobra Kai, it would probably be awesome.
Yep.
Because they would understand, like, how to make the characters interesting.
They're too busy working on the Duke Nukem movie.
Yeah. That'll probably be actually good, though, because they're good.
We'll see.
I won't. I'll never see it. Because I will make myself blinded. So what are you going to say?
What am I going to say?
Yeah, about Netflix. I mean, nerd news.
So, this isn't really news, but it's something I learned this week, so it's news to me. And I found it super interesting. So, the writer of The Wicker Man, see our previous episode.
Like the original?
Back in the day, he actually wrote a sequel that never got made, but I listened to an audio drama of what it would have been, and it was crazy. So basically the premise is, like, as Edward Woodward's being burned alive in The Wicker Man, like, 2 cops fly in at the last second and actually save him.
Edward
Woodward! So he survives, and but he's horribly burned.
Yeah.
So they take him back to the mainland, and he heals up, and he eventually recovers. And this time, he's pissed.
He becomes...
He's out for revenge.
Two-Face.
So he goes back to the island to get revenge, and all of the islanders have aged 20 years somehow. So there's supernatural elements, and eventually he fights a dragon at the end, and then he defeats the dragon, and then he jumps off a cliff holding onto 2 eagles, and he dies, and that's the he becomes a martyr. So weird. And the director of The Wicker Man was like, yeah, I read that story and I thought it sounded really stupid and everyone hated it, so we never made the movie.
Oh my god.
But can you imagine that? It's so weird.
Yeah, I don't even understand why from a funny perspective. It's just because it
undercuts the whole idea.
Yeah, it would
of the
ruin
original.
the first film, and then also makes no sense for a sequel. The ending, it's what?
Because Christopher Lee challenges him to
jump
to
off a cliff
fly.
holding eagles.
but he dies, and like he's like, you finally become a martyr, and that's the end of the movie.
For what? A martyr for eagles?
For Christianity, the belief.
That makes no sense, though.
Yeah, the whole thing makes no sense. Oh, and the best part is the title was The Loathsome Lambton Worm. Because I guess sometimes they call dragons worms.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
So yeah. Weird stuff.
I must show you my faith.
But the audio drama was really
flying.
good. And like,
what?
they even incorporated in, like, at one point he has like a weird dream and he's like, not the bees, not the bees.
Yeah. Oh my god.
It was like an Easter egg. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's
It's pretty stupid.
yeah, I don't know. That's really weird because I think we both like watched the movie multiple times, so it's definitely like
it's one of my favorite movies ever. Yeah.
There are definitely things about it I think aren't great, but it's definitely like a good movie. It's one of those things where like making a sequel is fucking stupid, in my opinion.
Yeah. Which they actually did make a sequel, The Wicker Tree, which was horrible. It sucked, but it was not that story.
Was it like a book or whatever?
It was a movie.
Yeah. Official?
I think it was Christopher Lee's last movie that he made before he died, and it was really bad.
Or he killed himself?
He should have, after watching that movie.
Was that like an official deal, or was that like
Yeah, it came out like 10 years ago.
Wow.
It was really bad.
Things people will do for money.
Didn't think you'd do it to me, George.
That's sad as fuck, dude.
Yep.
God. That's like the Wicker, or not the Wicker Tree, but the Blair Witch sequel you showed me. It was like, dude, this is dog shit. Yeah. Or any of the Phantasm movies we've
you got so
seen.
depressed.
I always assumed that there was never a sequel, and
Yep.
it never should be, but... Did it involve like the guy that like wrote the first one, or
Yeah, it was the same director. I don't know if it was the same writer, but
that guy's a piece of shit. Fuck him. He got lucky. So, I guess in the sequel, the tree was wickered. I don't even know if I have the energy to talk about this other piece of
dude.
I'm so depressed.
Why?
Because that's sad. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll talk about it here. I guess Kevin Smith came out and talked about how much of a failure DC's being, which usually he like just kisses ass on everything, but he's like essentially was like, I'll just read what he said. He says, "It's an incredibly bad look to cancel the Latina-led Batgirl movie," Smith said during the Hollywood Babylon series. "I don't give a shit if the movie was absolutely fucking dog shit. I guarantee you it wasn't. The two directors who directed the movie did a couple episodes of Miss Marvel, and it was a wonderful show. And they had more money to do Batgirl than they had to do an episode of Miss Marvel. This is a baffling thing," Smith said. "I don't give a shit how bad Batgirl movie is. Nobody in that movie is complicated or has anything in their real life you have to market around. In the Flash movie, we all know there's a big problem. Flash is the reverse Flash in real life."
Okay.
So,
yeah, I mean,
Water's
that's funny coming from him, like a guy who's had to scrape up every dollar to make a movie that's a classic for like $250,000, and to see a company throwing $90 million in the toilet has to be like enraging.
Oh yeah, I thought it was just, I thought it was weird that they were fine to. I mean, we talked about this I think even last week, but to throw away a movie that was essentially done and there was no reason to. It's not like the main actor blew themselves up in a fucking, terroristic thing, or, just something horrible, but then you have like a movie that, some horrible shit's going on around the main lead, and they're like pushing it through because they think people are going to really want to see this guy now. Anyway.
Yeah, good stuff.
Very good stuff. Okay. So, any other pieces of news?
That's all I got.
Any tales?
Nope.
Do you recommend anything?
The Loathsome Lambton Worm audio drama. You can find it on YouTube.
Okay. And I guess we're just going to go to Weird Watches then.
Weird Watches.
Okay, so I'll go into the technical stuff after you kind of give your little beginning piece here for this.
Well, I just was like researching weird shows and stumbled across Space 1999, and it was on the list. And then when I realized it came out the same year as Jaws, I was like, perfection. Plus, it stars Martin Landau, who we celebrated last week for his Oscar gold.
You were like an erection connection. Yeah.
Had you ever heard of this before?
No. But I was glad that you talked about it that you were going to talk about it, but you told me to watch it because it's good.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I thought so too. I haven't watched any more of it yet, but I plan on watching it because it's definitely like there was a thing where like I think somebody had said like this is kind of a connector between Star Trek and Star Wars, and it feels very like, you know, they have models and it feels kind of like, I mean, obviously now you look at it and you're like, okay, that's a model, but it's like they treat everything with like seriousness and like everybody's like treating it like it's an actual like life or death job and like very scientific. It's just got that like essentially until modern day Star Wars and Star Trek, it's got that old school like Deep Space Nine and like prequels feel to it, and before that where it's like this is science fiction. And you know, it's very, very nice to see. I mean, it's just I guess I'll go ahead and say like what this is about. This show came out in 1975 and ran until 77, and it's a science fiction show that was filmed. It was a British science fiction show that it's essentially like in the first episode, set in the year 1999. They are storing nuclear
September
waste.
12th, 1999, to be specific.
Well, actually, September 9th is the first episode, or first day.
Huh?
I think it happens on the 12th.
Nice correction.
I'm like, Indiana Jones did have a beard. But they're storing nuclear waste on, like, the moon, because I guess that's a big problem in the future. And it ends up being like this huge explosion that happens that knocks the moon out of orbit, and it sends it into like deep space, and there's like nothing they can do about it. So essentially it becomes like an unsteerable space.
It's like a reverse Star Trek Voyager.
Yeah. Which is, it's essentially like Star Trek Voyager before it was a thing. It's like, but like, as well as the 311 inhabitants of Moonbase Alpha hurtle them uncontrollably into space.
Yeah, so I liked it too.
I liked it too.
I'd like to watch more because like this first episode is very like hard science fiction.
And it's very like set up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently like they visit alien planets and like meet aliens and have adventures and stuff.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's a cool premise for the show. It was very, like you said, scientific and like procedural. Like it's the kind of different from Star Trek in that way that like there's no humor at all in the show. It's just like pure like a bunch of scientists doing their jobs.
Yeah.
And I could have probably used a little bit more humor, or like, because to me Star Trek is great because like Kirk and Spock and Bones are like their relationships are super interesting. Not so much the science fiction stuff.
I'd rather it be like how it was in this show than anything like the new Star Trek where everything's a joke, but it's because the writing's so bad.
Well, yeah. We've definitely, I agree with you on that one. I don't want anything to be like new Star Trek.
I don't want there to be space in my sci-fi. But yeah,
I wanted science fiction. I got science fact.
I'm like, hey, yo, Captain Jack.
But I thought Martin Landau was good, as he's just like very like super serious, like I don't know. Maybe
I also liked how you couldn't tell who was gonna die. Mm-hmm. To me, it seemed like anybody could have died, except for obviously like the people on the poster. I was like, okay, these people are still living. But
I looked it up, and like Christopher Lee's in an episode, and Peter Cushing's in an episode, so you can't go wrong there.
Yeah, that's legit. You can watch the first episode on YouTube. Like Shout Factory did the same thing they did with a couple other things we've watched, where like they put out a whole collection of this, and like you can watch it on the Shout Factory TV too. But like you can go on YouTube, and the first episode's on there. It just has like every once in a while where the commercials would be. It's like buy the whole collection, like an advertisement.
I wanted to ask you, where were you on September 12th, 1999?
I don't know about September 12th, but the day that this first started, I actually have some stuff that happened on the 9th.
Oh yeah?
So IRL, Sega.
It's funny that we both researched this.
Yeah, came out with the Dreamcast. I remember this in North America because I went and got it the day that it came out.
Nice.
It launched with 19 titles, breaking video game and entertainment sales records in the first 24 hours. And that same day, the 1999 MTV Video Music Awards ceremony airs from the Metropolitan Opera House in New York City. But what about the 12th?
So, the number one song in America was some TLC song. I forget what it was. But the number one song in the UK was "We're Going to Ibiza."
We're going to Ibiza. Whoa, back to the island.
I thought you were
going to say 9.95.
That was number one the whole decade.
Yeah, ever since humanity existed. Yeah. They were pounding on rocks.
But some of the movies that were in theaters were Stigmata, which
I've still never seen.
I was super excited about for some reason. I saw it and I thought it sucked.
Who's in that?
Patricia Arquette.
I don't
remember who else.
I know Stigmata's the whole thing where people get the wounds of Christ on their hands and shit. But I've never seen that film.
The Sixth Sense was still in theaters. Stir of Echoes, Runaway Bride.
I don't know.
Bowfinger, which you've seen Bowfinger, right?
Sounds familiar, but
with Eddie Murphy and Steve Martin.
Maybe, yeah, it sounds familiar.
Oh man, that's a classic.
Stir of Echoes, don't remember that. But
The 13th Warrior, Thomas Crown Affair, Mickey Blue Eyes, Chill Factor, Blair Witch Project, Love Stinks.
More like Blair Bitch Project.
But yeah.
Or the Where Bitch Project.
It's interesting to go back and see that kind of stuff.
But yeah, I don't remember what I was doing specifically on... I remember what I was doing on September 11th when the fucking...
not 1999.
Not Holocaust. The fucking... the towers got hit. I was fucking taking a nap. Because I remember my mom came in and was like, "Mike, they fucking hit the towers." And I was like, "What?" But I guess that's a little buddy tale there.
And it was 2 years after 1999.
People died. Well, yeah, I said 2001, but I fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I don't remember. Like I said, I remember where I was on the 9th, but not on the 12th, or what I was doing. I'm sure I was playing Dreamcast because I was like, "Whoa!" I was probably playing Dreamcast, listening to Ibiza and watching fucking Stigmata. It's like, back to the Chrysler Marx. Whoa!
Listening to the Macarena remix CD.
Like, hey, fucking Christ. I'm like, ducka, 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 ducka. What was I going to say?
Yeah. I think it's a solid show. I'd like to see more.
Yeah.
It was high quality. Like, it was apparently the most expensive British production for TV up to that point. Mm-hmm. So the models looked quality and stuff. It didn't look cheap.
It was the same people that had done Thunderbirds and all that stuff and those shows, but they literally had just gone out of business and then they got rehired and shit. Mm-hmm. But the first astronauts were out checking the disposal stuff. One of them was Nordstrom and the other one was Steiner, and all I could think of was the wrestler Scott Steiner. And I was like, "Give me a fucking mic!"
Was that his thing? I don't remember Scott Steiner.
What? Big Papa Pup? The genetic freak?
He had 2 nicknames?
He had multiple. He had the guy. He had the what's it called? The mesh fucking helmet. He's a WCW wrestler for the most part. But Martin Landau shows up. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, solid.
He's like, "It's freezing out here. Fuck this moon base. You get out here." He has no accent in this. It's there's a bunch of people in this that are British, but he's not.
Yeah.
Which is fine because it's not like everybody that went to the moon would be British, even though this is filmed in Britain. But which actually lends credibility to the show because it's not like everybody. It's not like in Star Wars where every Imperial's a fucking British person because they're Nazis or whatever. It's they kind of set up something for later in the show though, where it's planet. They're like trying to send this probe to this planet Meta, and they essentially are just like, well, let's just try to aim for planet Meta.
Aim the moon at Meta.
Because he was
Hope
like,
for the best.
In my opinion, if we were to try to get back to Earth at this point, we would fail. We should not even try. And everybody was like, yeah.
Commercial break.
Yeah. Yeah, it was... but there was no description for the effect of weight loss.
Nice.
And they had all this super, like, serious stuff with, like, you know, people dying and certain things. But then they had, like, their intro is, like, this funky as hell.
And it shows clips from the upcoming episode, which is always weird.
Yeah.
This week, you'll see.
Yeah. Which at first I didn't understand what the fuck was going on. I was like, what is going on? And then it was like, this week. And then it would be like, this week. And I'm like, okay. They say virus infection. And I was like, just kind of never heard anybody say virus infection before. What'd you think about like the Dick Tracy little cubes they had?
Yeah.
Like they would communicate.
Like mini TVs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
And we have them now.
That's true.
That technology came true.
That was pretty legit. I felt like they did like some horror stuff in this, and it was like very Dawn
With
of
the
the
space
Dead.
madness.
Yeah, it was like Dawn of the Dead horror style, the way it was, you know, 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Space madness or whatever this is. They stun him with like these Star Trek phasers.
Yeah. That was like very futuristic.
Yeah.
Compared to all the rest of their technology.
Yeah, I think that was something because they couldn't like affect because they essentially didn't have like long range space travel. They could go to the moon and go back to Earth and stuff, but like anything else was beyond their capabilities in this show. But like because they were still fucking with nuclear waste, but then they had randomly laser pistols.
Yeah, and it was funny because there's a scene where when the moon first gets launched, the G-forces are so hard that no one can move, basically. And in the For All Mankind show, there's an exact same scene happens in that show.
The moon launches?
Yeah. Well, not the moon. But
You're like, yeah.
I've been watching that series at the same time. And it was like, well,
you know what's funny?
nice coincidence.
There was that show that came out on Netflix where it was like Moonfall, where like the moon fucking falls out of orbit. And that's all I could think of when I watched this was like,
oh, was that a movie?
Yeah.
I think I saw that, and it was really bad.
Yeah. I've heard nothing but bad shit about it. Cause
like, the moon is like a serial killer, and then
yeah.
like sneaks up on people, and they're like, ah!
It's like, the moon ends up being like a fucking alien something.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's been a fucking alien ship this whole time. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally forgot about that already. But...
yeah, I was just like,
Are you suggesting we blow up the moon?
Would you miss it?
Feed my fish?
Not too much. Yeah, speaking of that show you were talking about, like with the moon or whatever, fucking they crashed a ship on the moon in this, and I was like, holy shit. We're looking for answers, Commander, not heroes. I'm like, okay.
I'd like to have both.
It's like, what? What'd you think of like the suits with like the one arm of a certain color to designate stuff? It was kind of like their version of Star Trek, putting shit around people's thing to be like, this is what you are. And I'm like,
the red shirt. Like, your job is to get killed.
It's like, do you have to, like, can't you just wear like a badge? I guess that was something that eluded futuristic people. Wear a shirt that's a certain color. What would you think about that? The one-armed.
I thought it was cool. It was very Star Trek-ish.
It was different enough.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of surprised they've never done anything like that in Star Trek, like the one arm kind of thing. I guess they just literally they were like, the shirt's a color, and then they kind of just took that and ran with it in different versions, and it kind of became you wear something over a shirt, and the shirt underneath of it's like a certain color.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, Doctor. It was radiation. Magnetic radiation. Now we're sitting on the biggest bomb mankind has ever made. Like, well, they didn't, like, make it on purpose, but it is made. They start dispersing the nuclear waste, and it goes fucking tits up. And fucking... the moon gets blasted into space, and then that's when everybody goes into an acting contest with the the G-forces.
Yeah.
And of course, the only person that can, like, kind of get out of the G-forces enough to react is Martin Landau, the main character, like the captain.
Because he's also the strongest man.
Yeah, he's able to somehow pull himself up. Not only just push himself off when no one else could, off the floor, but he could pull himself up on a table. I was like, Hercules over here.
No more table.
No more table. But yeah. I liked it. Like I'm with you. I think I'm gonna like try to.
I was pleasantly surprised. Like I thought it was gonna be some super cheesy '70s show, but it was not as cheesy as I thought. So.
Right. I thought it was gonna be like dog shit. Well, I didn't think it was gonna be dog shit. But I thought it was gonna be, like you said, it was quality. Gonna be not up to snuff because you never know with like. I mean, I guess I should.
What
say...
was it like? Arc 2? Like this was the opposite of that in terms of quality.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that when I first started watching it. I was like, is this going to be like Arc 2? But like Arc 2 had like no money apparently from what it looked like. It was like some shitty car. But I was going to say like it could be like, oh, you know, everything from that time period could be shit. But I was like, I mean, that's the same with any time period.
Yep.
So, I guess we're both in agreement.
Yeah.
It was fucking shit.
Like, boo.
Fuck you, matter. But I'll be interested to see like what they run into and stuff.
Yeah.
So cool. Are you ready
for the main event? Ding ding ding.
Ding ding ding. Ding 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 ding. Actually, I guess we're gonna do our top 5.
All right.
Top 5 Spielberg films.
It's hard to put down because he's done a lot of good stuff.
That's true.
And all of not so good.
Are perfect. Okay, so what's your number 5?
Saving Private Ryan.
Ah.
Amazing movie.
Nice music.
It did have nice music provided by John Williams.
He always has nice music.
Yeah. But
he's like, da 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 da, don't get fucking shot by fucking sniper. I'm like, holy shit, this is so new. Yeah, great movie, great pick.
Yeah. And what else can you say at this point? It's a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
But that's not one that I.
Who are the main people in that? Like Tom Hanks.
It's like Matt Damon.
Spielberg's like collaborators.
Yep. But that's not like one that I want to watch all the time because it's pretty heavy and intense. Like
every day and everywhere, watching Saving Private Ryan. Wait, what? Saving Private Ryan. Save Private Ryan.
But yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's good, man.
How about you?
The Adventures of Tintin. I thought it was a pretty great movie.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked
because
it's one of those like CG animated, and it's like they did a good job of bringing something that's essentially like super old, like Popeye, and bringing it into the modern era and staying true to how the characters looked and stuff.
I've only seen it once. I saw it when it came out in theaters, and I fell asleep. But it's not because the movie was bad. I think I was super tired.
You went there with like your parents. You fell asleep.
But yeah, that's a cool movie.
I've fallen asleep in theaters before where the movie was awesome. It was just, I was tired as fuck. So. Hell, I fell asleep, I think, when we watched Broken Arrow that one time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because I just got back from working at GameStop, and I was just like...
Dude, Broken Arrow
I don't think you ever, like, fucking caught me, but I would be, like, looking around, like, taking a naughty snooze cruise. But yeah.
I'm like, no sleeping allowed.
Yeah.
It's against the rules.
I wake up and there's a gun in my mouth. You're like, wrong choice, motherfucker.
You picked the wrong movie to sleep during. Broken Arrow.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to break this bullet over your fucking face. Okay, number 4.
War of the Worlds.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I really like that movie. It kind of has a weird ending, which isn't so great, but like the first hour of it is some of the best Spielberg action out there.
I remember watching it like one time and thinking it was okay. I didn't like hate it. It was definitely like a summer blockbuster.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's pretty scary.
I remember when it came out, it was like the scariest thing about that whole thing was when like they're trying to like leave and like it's like the first time you're really seeing like people turn on each other and somebody gets like shot in the background and shit, that people are fighting over cars and all this other crap. So
yeah, Tom Cruise is like, get in that car or you're gonna die. And it's like, whoa, this is serious.
He says that to fucking Spielberg. And he's like, what?
He says that to the guy from Duel.
And he's like,
How about your number 4?
My number 4 is actually the first episode ever of Columbo, which is directed by Steven Spielberg, Murder by the Book.
Sweet.
The first Columbo airing in the series. It also has the distinction of being directed by a relatively new and inexperienced guy, Steven Spielberg.
Cool.
Great episode. It's like what got me hooked on the show.
I've seen that one, but I think that's the only one I have seen. But I'm hopefully going to rewatch that series soon, or watch it for the first time.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, like the later ones start to be kind of like daytime, Lifetime movie bullshit. But like the original ones are essentially like watching movies, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
nice pick. Number 3 for me is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Nice.
I think Raiders of the Lost Ark might be like a better movie, but The Last Crusade is my favorite.
Last Crusade's like the one with Sean Connery.
Yeah.
I think that's the best one.
Yeah, it's great. And Sean Connery is like to team up.
I think everybody thinks that Temple of Doom is probably the best out of the original 3, but I'm going to go against the grain here and say that child labor is fucking the
most
best.
Horrific movie I've ever seen.
Emaciated children for the win.
Yeah.
They're like
getting their hearts ripped out.
I want a sandwich. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
How about you?
My number 3 is Jaws.
Cool.
The film that we're about to talk about.
Yeah. It's higher on my list.
Ah, nice.
So I guess number 2.
Yeah, I was like, what comes after 3?
Jurassic Park.
Nice.
The classic. What else can you say at this point? It's
yeah. I'm like science.
But the sequels are even better. Jurassic World somehow was even better than
Jurassic World.
The series where the first one is great and every sequel has sucked, yet they keep like making tons of money.
That's everything. It's like all the fucking Halloween movies, all the Friday the 13th movies, they just like...
Not Halloween 3!
That's true.
That's also true.
But that was also... I think that was one of the ones
See our
that
previous
came out
episode.
Everybody hated. So, it's an outlier.
Yep.
I also don't specifically hate Jurassic Park 2.
I don't either.
I think Jurassic Park 1 is awesome. I think Jurassic Park 2 is interesting for doing
it has
something
its moments.
a little bit. And then after that, it's just like, dude, this is dog shit. Yeah. Yeah. So, what'd you say number 2, Jurassic Park? Or
number 2 is Jurassic Park. Yeah.
I put Indiana Jones. I mean, if I had to pick one, it would be the same one you picked, The Last Crusade. I just put Indiana Jones in general, but
not Crystal Skull.
But well, actually, now that I think about it, it's probably gonna be the new one. But only if Mutt shows up.
He didn't even direct the new one.
Himself.
It's like Spielberg didn't even deign to direct the new one. It's like that's not a good sign.
That
Maybe
is
they shouldn't
true.
have made it at all.
That's right. He directed what, The Crystal Skull. I saw how that shit turned out.
Yeah.
So maybe someone else should direct him.
That's true. George Lucas.
That's true. He always wanted to, and Spielberg's like, fuck off. It's like, damn, dude. Maybe he was just getting back at him for never letting him direct a Star Wars.
Yeah.
He wanted to. That would have been fun.
Before we get to number 1, I do want to mention, like, for someone who's made as many movies as Spielberg has, like,
how many bad
you're gonna have a few
filmed?
stinkers.
Oh, you have a dishonorable mention?
I have dishonorable mentions.
You're like Signs.
These movies suck. Hook, which see our previous episode, Hook blows. Crystal Skull, which has its moments, I think, still, but
when it's over.
The BFG was garbage.
BFG?
Yeah, it was like an animated movie.
Oh. I
from
thought
the
that
Roald
movie
Dahl
was
book.
okay, but it didn't need to be directed by Steven Spielberg.
The Terminal. one of
the
worst
yeah,
movies
that's
I've ever
isn't
seen.
that is that the one where like it's like Tom Hanks is stuck in a airport for.
It started because it was.
That's another one where it's like, why is this directed by Steven Spielberg? It's just like a romantic comedy.
Everyone hated it when it came out, and I watched it, and the first the first 5 minutes, I'm like, this isn't so bad. Yeah. But then by the end of the movie, I'm like,
well, the problem is the first 5 minutes is the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly.
For like 2 hours.
And then Ready Player One, I can't think of a movie I've hated more in the past like 20 years than Ready Player One. Like such corporate garbage.
I haven't seen it.
Everything about it
I know
sucks.
I haven't seen it, and it's definitely not the worst movie I've seen. I've seen way worse, but I will agree with you. I forgot that like he directed that, and it is like it's like Space Jam 2. It's like let's see how it's like let's show all these properties. Everybody's paying us money to like shove their fucking property penis into this film. On because it's essentially like let's see how many references we can put on screen. So bad. Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I don't really plan on.
You can skip it.
I'll watch it, and it's actually the best film ever.
You're like my number one. Ready Player One was more like Ready Player Fun.
Yeah, I didn't like. I watched BFG, but it wasn't like. It's like The Terminal. It didn't need to be directed by Steven Spielberg. Like, what the fuck is he doing directing these films?
Yeah, the BFG was more forgettable, but The Terminal is just straight up bad.
Well, it was like, why is this?
Yeah,
why did he direct this? Like, he's like a visionary. But then again, he directed. I feel like Crystal Skull, it was just like, it's almost like someone put a gun to his head and was like, make Indiana Jones, because it was just like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
They didn't. Honestly, George should have directed that one if he wanted. They should have let him do it. Like, fucking let him do it.
Like, you're serious? Aliens? All right, you direct this one, George.
Yeah, go ahead. Who gives a shit at this point?
But on to more positive.
Yeah.
What's your number one?
Oh, Jurassic Park.
Nice.
The first film. It's one of the only films I can actually, like, remember seeing in theaters when I was younger, and it, like that and Back to the Future, like, it was, like, an actual movie-going experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, from the audio to, like, seeing dinosaurs and being like, holy shit, they're fucking alive. But they weren't, obviously. But just kind of being, like, blown away. I was blown away by dinosaurs. But yeah, it's just that's the kind of stuff you expect from Steven Spielberg, and then he makes Terminal and Crystal Skulls, and you're like, this is wonderment for no one.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest problem is, like, he makes these movies, I think, for himself to be, like, wondered and stuff, but, like, when he doesn't make them for himself, at least, like, Hook, you could tell he put, his, like, stuff into it.
There's something there.
And there's, like, a lot of cool ideas and stuff in it, but it's, like, it just doesn't land with us, but, like, it's obviously loved by certain people, so, like, but, like, Terminal, it's, like,
Rufio.
this is just, like, a Lifetime movie, like, fuck off.
Yeah.
What about you? You like Jurassic Park?
It's Jaws for me, but
nice.
Like Jurassic Park Jaws, like they're great.
Jurassic Jaws.
Yeah,
that would be horrible.
So no love for E.T. I thought you might pick E.T.
I've never been like a huge E.T. person.
Really?
I've never hated it, but like it's not like my. I never really grew up watching E.T. either. Like it's kind of like Hook. I didn't watch it when I was younger. It's kind of like Monster Squad. I never watched that when I was younger. I never watched Goonies when I was younger. But I've watched Goonies recently and Monster Squad recently, and I really liked both of them. Monster Squad more so. Like, I really liked that movie. But E.T. was cool. It was just kind of like, I mean, I have a story about we went to Universal, and you could put in your name.
Yeah.
And my uncle put in, like, butt or whatever, and everybody was, like, cracking up.
That's great.
Like, see you later, butt.
I couldn't think of a funnier thing to put in.
Yeah, and it was like, what the fuck?
Nice.
But yeah, that was awesome. Maybe I'll have to watch E.T. again. I think
it's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's a great film. It's just I haven't watched it in a while. It's almost kind of like Jaws. It's been parodied so much that, like, while I was watching Jaws, so stuff didn't happen that I was like, I'm pretty sure this happened, but it didn't happen. It's like, but that's why it's the OG.
Yep.
Yeah. For me, it's like Steven Spielberg has made so many great films. It's like you can't really get past talking about Indiana Jones, Jaws, Jurassic Park,
I mean, there's a bunch more that I love, almost as much as these.
But like, these are the ones that like, if somebody was like asking me about, I'd be like, yeah, you have to watch Indiana Jones, the first 3. You have to watch, the first Jaws, and you have to watch the first 2. Well, the first Jurassic Park, and maybe watch the second one. It's like with any franchise, though. I mean, certain ones, it's kind of weird to be like, only watch these, but I can't think of like a franchise where you could really say that.
Yeah.
I think the only reason why Back to the Future you could say maybe watch all 3 of them is because sadly Michael J. Fox got Parkinson's and they never made more. Thus, they never had a chance to have it get fucked up. Because you look at Ghostbusters and,
yeah,
they made more and it kind of didn't really land. So the longer things go, I do remember one thing though about Indiana Jones, the Crystal Skull. Not to like harp on like bad shit, but like I remember watching some behind the scenes stuff before the movie came out, and one of the things he specifically, like Spielberg said, is like, he wasn't too old to do it back then, and now that he's 60 or however old he was, he's definitely not too old to do it now. He's just as good as he was back then. And I'm like, that's not a great thing. It's like what Bruce Campbell was like, the new Evil Dead does not suck. I'm like, that's the best fucking thing you can say about it, is that it doesn't suck. Or this person isn't too old to play a character. Like, I don't know. Like,
there is a chase scene through the college campus.
That is fucking awesome.
It's worth watching the movie for.
To me, like, that's the only part of the movie that reminded me of, like, The Last Crusade and, like, the original films. I think the first and third are definitely, like, my favorite. The second one just has, like, this weird thing to it that I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it.
It's super disturbing. I've said it before, but, like, there's stuff in that movie that's more intense and, like, messed up than like 99% of horror movies out there. It's crazy.
I wouldn't go that far. I would go further.
You're like 100%. But yeah, good stuff.
Galima! Like, yo! Pulls a fucking heart out of somebody's chest and like, this is a kid's film.
The first third and the third are good. The middle part is horrifying.
It's also like there's some very like iffy,
the minecart chase is kind of cool.
Adventure trope stuff with like snake surprise and stuff, where it's like, okay, yeah, it's all around just a fucking disgusting film, kind of.
Yeah, it really is.
It's like, but do you have anything else to say about Steven Spielberg or Steven Spielberg?
No, I'm excited to get into.
What's he got on the horizon? Do you know?
So yeah,
making anything else?
Good question. Good question.
Or good question.
I'm glad you asked, because he has a new movie coming out called The Fabelmans, which he wrote based on his life.
Really?
So that could be interesting. And did you know he was born in Cincinnati?
Really?
Mm-hmm. Wow. I think he moved to California when he was like 1, so it doesn't really count.
He was born in Cincinnati. That's why like half of what he does is good. Just how like we only have one.
And he loves Skyline Chili.
Does he?
No. But The Fabelmans, I think, could be good.
Yeah, it's just like about his life. Or?
Yeah, I think it's about his his adventures growing up.
My thing is like Spielberg is best when he's like Miyamoto, when he's telling like fantastical adventures and stuff. Mm-hmm. Like a movie, where if it's fantasy, if it's sci-fi, if there's supernatural stuff, if it's just an adventure thing like Indiana Jones, But he does a good job with like creating the characters and having them kind of like, the world is interesting. What he doesn't do great is when he like takes a realistic situation like The Terminal and makes it into a film, like a biopic of somebody. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
even he just made West Side Story remake, and I started watching the first few minutes of it, and I'm like, I'm out.
Well, that was weird because like he made the original, right? No.
But he's like, I always wanted to remake it. I felt I had to. I was like, well, you do you, man.
Yeah.
But
I mean, he's earned the right to do whatever he wants, but I have the right as a movie goer to not
watch
see
it, counselor.
Yeah.
You've earned the right. But that can be taken away at any time. With
like,
a few more of these stinkers.
It's like... I give a vote of no confidence to Chancellor Spielberg.
Leadership.
So this is how Hollywood career dies.
This is how liberty
To thunderous
dies.
applause.
They're like, dun-dun, dun-dun.
They're like, dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. He holds up like an orb.
And I'm like, this is the greatest thing Star Wars has ever done. Fucking, I had like Vaseline over my glasses. It's like, this is the greatest shit I've ever seen. It's like, okay, are you ready to move on to the main event for the week?
Yep.
Okay, let me find the feature presentation.
Jaws week.
Jaws week. I'm gonna drink through this. I'm like, I'm
What could go wrong?
Delicious water where I live.
Oh no, it's fresh water. You're allergic. And Mike pretty much died.
Yeah.
With a belly full of toys.
Jaws senpai.
It's
So
a nice kawaii fin.
it's nice kawaii dorsal.
Why?
It's like
Right.
so
Jaws.
Jaws is a 1975 American thriller film directed by Steven Spielberg, based on the 1974 novel by Peter Benchley. Stars Roy Scheider as police chief Martin Brody, who, with the help of a marine biologist Richard Dreyfuss,
Martin Brody.
and a professional shark hunter Robert Shaw, hunts a man-eating great white shark that is attacking beachgoers at a summer resort town. Murray Hamilton plays the mayor, and Lorraine Gary portrays Brody's wife. The screenplay is credited to Benchley, who wrote the first drafts, and actor-writer Carl...
Gottlieb.
Who rewrote the script during principal photography.
And since you mentioned him, he wrote a book about the making of Jaws called The Jaws Log, which I read and it's amazing. But it was one of the first like real big movie or book about making of a movie.
Okay.
And the making of the movie is super interesting too.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, I know there was a fuck ton of issues with like getting the shark working, which you wouldn't know it watching the film.
That's true.
I guess as we do this each week, I guess we'll talk about the soundtrack here.
Legendary.
Yeah, I couldn't find a lot of, I don't know, like on IMDb, I found the soundtrack, but it's like untitled improvised campfire guitar music. This is definitely a lot different than today, where it's like everything is like on a soundtrack was handpicked to what could make the most money. I Honestly Love You, uncredited. Most of these are uncredited. You're Having My Baby, written by Paul Anka, performed by Paul Anka, and someone else that I don't really want to talk about. Or I guess I can. Odia Coates. I don't know why I didn't want to say that. And the good old...
We don't talk about Odia Coates in this house.
Matt gets out the belt, makes me eat it. I'm like... Yeah.
2 rules: no sleeping during Broken Arrow, and don't mention Odia Coates.
I've broken both, and now it's time for a beating. Matt's going to give me the leather choice. In the Good Old Summertime, by George Evans. Spanish Ladies, traditional English shanty, performed by Robert Shaw. Show Me the Way to Go Home, performed by Robert Shaw, Roy Scheider, and Richard Dreyfuss, which was legit. Serenade Number 13th in G minor 3 by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And then the most memorable Jaws theme by John Williams.
That's legendary.
Yeah. It's like, you know, the Halloween Mike Myers theme. It's the Superman theme. It's Batman theme. It's essentially like, if you can think of any iconic like thing, it's like it's up there. Everybody knows the Jaws theme.
Yeah,
it's great.
So, what's your history with Jaws? Like, did you see it when you were growing up, or have you seen it a bunch of times? Or?
No. Honestly, like, I don't really remember too much about Jaws in general. Like, I mean, obviously everybody's heard of Jaws. It's like it's a legend. But I'm assuming my mom and probably dad went and saw Jaws at some point and were like horrified.
I think everyone did back in the day. It was like the hugest hit ever.
It's like the thing that gets talked about that is like that's scary and like The Exorcist. But like
An American Werewolf in London
Yeah.
According to my mom. The scariest movie
Werewolf
ever
of London. I saw fucking Jaws with a Chinese minion. And it's fun. I don't know. I mean, I honestly can't put down a time when I ever really sat down and watched Jaws until today.
Oh, yeah?
I
Nice.
probably had, but you know what I mean? It didn't jump out at me or swim out at me. I do remember there was something that I remember before anything with Jaws was, I mean, of course I'd known of it, but in Back to the Future, the joke with them having like Jaws 20 or whatever, and it like comes out 3D style, was like a huge deal, like in the theater.
Yeah, Jaws was just so in the pop culture. Like, you don't even have to have seen it to know a lot about it.
Yeah. In fact, on this very podcast, we reviewed Cruel Jaws, a total ripoff of this film before we talked about Jaws because it's such a pop culture thing. In Cruel Jaws, they not only reference that, they reference like Indiana Jones and Star Wars themes. Like they didn't give a fuck. They just like used them. What about you?
I definitely remember the first time I saw it because it scared the hell out of me because I was a little kid.
You were in the water.
Like, my dad like showed me this movie when I was probably too young, and like we didn't really watch horror movies that much growing up. Not that like I wasn't allowed to, but it's just like
my parents
not
weren't
what
into that either.
My parents were into. But Jaws is a horror, like one of the scariest horror movies ever, and it was intense.
You know what's funny is like I have a big fear of water, but when watching this film, there was never a time when I was really scared, and it's mainly except for maybe at the very end, but it's mainly because of like John Williams' score. There's a lot of times when like it gives you hope with like the like almost the Alan Silvestri like Back to the Future and like Star Wars and Indiana Jones like hope vibes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like that, and they save actually showing the full shark till almost the very end of the film. Mm-hmm. They do a good job of that. But I do agree with you. Like just the idea of that though, like that I could never see like Meg, because the thing with Jaws is
Meg sucks.
After like this, like they just kept making the sharks bigger. Mm-hmm. So like to me, like Jaws is big. But like, what's really scary to me is something that's so big that it could like swallow me, like even if I was in my car. That kind of, you know what I mean? Like something that was just so big that it's like unfathomable, kind of thing. But it's still scary. I mean, honestly, if I was in there, the water and Jaws was there, I wouldn't be like, oh fuck it, you're not big enough.
Not big enough. Come back when you're.
But it would, it's. I think it's also like it's shot differently. It's shot to be scary, but it's not like modern day where it's like, they're going out of their way to be the most like, I don't know, grotesque, I guess. There is blood in this though, which is legit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's like a topless scene in the first like little bit of this film, and it's like I didn't even think about that. Like I completely forgot about it or didn't remember it or whatever, but I was just like, damn, okay. That's something that like that would be reserved for like a Rob Zombie film these days.
I know. Different times.
I'm coming. I'm not drunk. I was like, okay, fair enough. They had like the lady when she gets like pulled around, she's like, I was like, Jesus. It's like,
and all you could think about was the Ace Ventura parody.
Yep. She's like, dun 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 dun. dun.
She's like, do not go in there.
Yeah. She's like, woo. She's like, do not press go. Do not collect $200. But she gets dragged under, and it's like silence.
That's a scary way to start the movie.
Yeah. What's even scarier is her arm was covered in crabs and noodles.
That was gross.
I was like, apparently I read up that was like, they tried using a fake arm, but Spielberg was like, dude, this looks like shit. So they just buried like a lady and just had her arm sticking out.
Yeah, Spielberg, he said this was, even to this day, like the hardest movie he ever made, and he still has nightmares like about it because it was like such a challenge.
Yeah. Like,
and so much stuff went wrong.
Trying to get the shark and also their bullshit to work. It's like...
So do you think this Do you think it lives up to like the legend? Do you think it's as good as
The Legend of Jaws?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Well, like, what would the legend be?
Do you think this movie's as good as its reputation?
Oh,
as
like a pop culture? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, without this movie, there would be... I mean, there eventually probably would be, like, water films like that are, like, horror-based and stuff. But this one was done with such, like... What's it called? Like, it definitely... You can tell it was, like, based off a book because it's very, like... It starts and ends very, like, succinctly. It's just kind of like, it's over. Mm-hmm. And it's very like it's tactfully done. You know, you never think that at the end, even though the shark got blown up, that it's gonna like come back and kill someone at the end of the film. You know what I mean? Like
save that for the
jump
sequels.
out of the fucking water at the last second, like some bullshit.
Yeah, there's a jump scare at the end, and the credits is like, ooh, wow!
Yeah, it's like my prison. Like what the fuck? That was mainly like 90s and 2000s horror and action kind of stuff like that like ruined it for me for a while. But a long way away from that was this that set the bar for a lot of like good stuff. Yeah, we were talking about this. I mean, Duel was the original, like the on land kind of stalker, and then of course like the first Halloween movie was like fucking awesome for that too, because it's not about the gore and the fuck. It's about like the chase. It's kind of like, I don't know, like with wrestling, what's more entertaining, watching like a good guy chase the belt and try to like get the bad guy, or then he gets it and it's like, well, what do you do now? You know what I mean? It's about the build up and the fucking, you know, because
also the characters are so good and like the dialogue is so memorable. Like,
right?
It's just it sucks you in and it becomes like riveting to watch.
I'm like, I get fucking black hole, son. Once you come, but I'm not drunk. But it's like you get sucked in, like you said. But it's like because they don't ruin it, and like Mike Myers, they show him like one time before he finally kind of really starts doing shit. But like, yeah,
he's like, yeah, baby, Sharkadelic.
He's like, bite me, yes, please.
Of course, you haven't seen The Shape. We just met, baby. That's so stupid.
But it's just like building up to all that, and like not ruining your main attraction before it's time. Mm-hmm. You know, it's old school logic, but like a lot of films that came after this, like fucking shot themselves in the foot right off the bat because they didn't have the patience. Mm-hmm. But this film does. There was a line about the kids that were karateing the fence. I don't know why I decided to write that down, but I just thought it was weird because I don't think I've ever heard anybody say karateing. I have a line here that just says beautiful coastal footage and town.
Yeah,
it made me want to like watch another film where it was like, you know, like Maine or Northeastern kind of.
Yep, for sure. It's a good atmosphere.
Yeah, it reminds me of like seeing like Italian, like any coastal town has it looks different. Mm-hmm. You know, Maine is different from like an Italian coastal town, different from a California town. But they all look, you know, they all have their different qualities and stuff. But it's just cool. It's like reminded me of when we watched like Dagon, and even though that movie kind of sucks, it was cool.
It's a memorable atmosphere.
Yeah, it's like I mean, we're in the, you know, we're nowhere near water really, so to see something like that where it's like they're literally like he gets out of bed and fucking the ocean's right there. It's like, man, that's really cool.
Yeah. So this movie has the guts to like murder a little kid.
Yeah.
Which that's rare to see.
Yeah.
Especially on screen, like a huge fountain of blood, like when I first saw that, I was like, this movie's not messing around. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, because the first person that gets killed is like a woman, and then the second person that gets killed is some random kid that gets
munched.
He doesn't get like killed. He gets like unexisted. He like
disintegrated.
He turns into like just
blood,
food coloring.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, I was like...
It was the feel-good hit of the summer.
I was like, oh. But yeah, I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, it was like, I mean, in the 70s and stuff like that, and even the 80s, like, they didn't really give a shit. I mean, it's not like they went out of... The difference between that and now is, like, if they killed a kid, this would be, like, in a Rob Zombie film or something like that, where it went out of its way, and there probably would be, like, 20 rapes in the film for no reason. Whereas, like...
Like the Munsters.
Holy shit, they are monsters. But like then it was just like it was mainly done to be like anyone's fair game. You know what I mean? Not to be like we're doing it to be edgy,
right?
You know, and it wasn't treated like it was edgy. It was just like holy fuck. And the thing that they did that was different that they probably wouldn't do in one, you know, something like in a horror movie today is if they killed a kid. They dwelled a lot on like the mother being like a character.
It's horrifying.
Which
it makes it like more impactful,
right? And it makes, I don't know, it like to me, like if they were to kill a kid like that today, it would just literally be like something that would happen and be like, look, we killed a kid, but like the mother would not be a part of the story and she wouldn't really exist. It would just be another thing that they did, like if they killed like a dog or something, be like, we did it because we did it, like
threw a dog in a lake.
I just want to go fishing. Woo! Dog's like, wow. This is like the origin of the Committee of Kiss Asses, like in movies. From what I mean, I'm sure there were other things, but like this is the first time I remember probably the oldest film we've seen where like
Kiss Ass Origins.
Yeah, they don't see anything wrong with supposed shark attacks because they do the exact same thing in that Cruel Jaws film. It's like exactly the same.
Dude, and that's what's funny, like, they do the same thing in Jaws 2.
Yeah.
Which, the mayor, like, he didn't even learn from this movie. Like, the same thing happens
and he's still
again.
in office.
Yeah, he's still in office. Like, maybe this guy shouldn't be the mayor.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're not born here, you aren't an islander. I heard that, like, just randomly, and I was like, it's kind of an asshole thing to say.
Yeah, Islander elite.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of like scary moments in this movie, but the one that gets me the most is like when the dude is in the lake and you see a shot like looking down and you see the shark like with its mouth open going for him.
Yeah.
That's horrifying. Yeah. That's like crazy.
You're like, I loved it.
And then his rubber leg like hits the bottom of the... It's like boing.
It's like boing. Fucking Elmer Fudd. Like, I'm hunting sharks. Yeah. I'm like, man, this is fucking horrifying.
Did you ever ride the Jaws ride at, I guess, Universal Studios?
I'm trying to think. I think when we went, I don't know if it was still there. We rode the Back to the Future ride. We rode a ride called, I think, just like Disaster or Earthquake or something, and it was like they would just drive you into a subway, and then like something would happen where like come down, and it's just a bunch of random bullshit. Which it was scary because it was like, fuck, are we gonna get wet? Are we gonna drown? But they did it, But I'm trying to think what else was there, but I don't specifically remember. We might have ridden it, and I just don't remember it. But I'm pretty sure I probably would have remembered it. I do remember there was like, just like Jaws, there was a lot of fuck ups with when that park opened. Like Steven Spielberg was there because he was like, I can't wait to ride Jaws, and it was like delayed like 20 hours. Like, it was a complete fuck up, just like the movie.
Nice.
Yeah, like there's a part with a random old guy that had like sagging tits that just sits down in front of Brody, and he starts talking to him, and I was just like, he's literally like this close to him, and I was just like, that's definitely different than like today. Like people keep their distance from each other, but back then it was like he was like right next to him.
No social distancing.
Yeah.
What do you think of Brody?
I'm like, he's the worst fucking asshole. He's great. I mean, I don't know. Like, I like all the characters in this.
Yeah. What else can you say? Like, it's amazing. Like, it's...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, Have you heard anybody say they didn't like his character, or you just kind of wanted to know? I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm assuming you probably feel the same way.
Yeah, it's like, a guy who's scared of water has to face his ultimate fear.
He comes back for the sequel, right?
He comes back for the first sequel, yeah. Which is okay, and the rest of the sequels.
It's kind of like Jurassic Park. What about, does What's-His-Face ever come back? Quint? No. He's like, ah!
Mrs. Brody comes back for the Jaws 4, because the shark is like, over the course of the sequels, the shark keeps killing like the Brody family.
What about Richard Dreyfuss? Does he come back at all ever?
I think he might be on like the phone in one of them, but he never returns. Like, you never see him again. Or maybe they just mention him. Like,
they kind of like do a thing where they kind of write him out of it in the movie to a degree, because there's a part where they say like he's trying to finish this up so he can go off to like a thing randomly out in the sea. But I guess he had more dignity or something, or not dignity. Maybe I'm sure they would get him if he fucking would take the money. But we have iconic music, Fountain of Blood, tight zoom in on Brody's face. It's like, I can't remember the number of times that I've seen like a YouTube video show this clip because they reference it for like top movies or something. But yeah, it's super iconic. And then after, because we talked about it earlier, when the kid gets killed, like the mother offers like a bounty of like $3,000 to the man or men who catch and kill the shark that killed Alex M. Kintner on Sunday, June 29th. Very specific. On the Amity Town beach. That equates to like $16,520.97 today. That's fucking ridiculous. That lady was jacked. Or well, she was rich. She's like jacked. Yeah, she's like Alex M. Kintner's mom. She's like, da-da-da-da-da. Oh, man, damn. Jesus. Is a $3,000 bounty in cash or check? I'm like, that's pretty fucking insensitive, because like one of the dudes, like one of the, I guess like people that are like with the mayor, like I guess they're like councilmen. Is it in cash or check? And I was like, they just fucking blendered a kid and fucking, he's like, was it in cash or check? And they laugh, and I'm like, what a fucking dick. It's just, I mean, obviously they go to show like how insensitive and who, and Quint puts his fucking hands on the chalkboard, which I'm like, I don't think that's possible to like go like that on chalkboard.
Like, yeah,
I'm like, he's fucking like a werewolf over here.
One of the most iconic introductions of a character ever. Quint is awesome. I love Robert Shaw, and like when I realized that he was the same actor that was in From Russia with Love.
For your Russia only.
Like, I couldn't even wrap my head around it. Because he's so good in both those movies, but especially Jaws.
He plays Q.
He plays Bond.
Oh.
He could have been a good Bond.
Oh. He shows up, he's like, Bond, James Bond. Everyone's like, what?
That's his weapon. Yeah.
He's like, everyone's like, yeah. Brody's wife scares the shit out of him, and it's almost like, was that real? It was so good. I was like, got him. People don't know how long sharks live. 2,000-3,000 years? I'm like, pretty sure that ain't true.
I don't know. 3,000?
How long did you live, my friend, before you became a plastic mask? Actually, it's foam. He's like, I lived like I died. I'm like, holy shit. Like, what does that mean? You lived like you died. What? Being shot? I lived being shot. Yeah, well, I thought that was a funny line, though. Like, they lived 2,000 to 3,000 years. I'm like, even if you don't know anything about an animal, I don't think there's any animal that lives that long on Earth. Unless they're, like, vampiric. I need vampiric evidence.
Nosferatu in Venice.
Yeah, Nosferatu and Shark. Shark ripped off, end of doc. This is starting to get into fucking ridiculous territory. But it just goes to show the strength and might of the shark on that night. Yeah, it was like he pulls the dock off. He rips the dock off and like takes a dude out
sends him seaworthy.
But he like lives. It was like false finish, number 1 of the film. Well, I guess the movie was.
Jaws went hungry that night.
He did. Richard Dreyfuss as Matt Hooper enters the scene. The original nerd, Dr. Daniel Jackson. I'm gonna reference it and try to get him over as much as possible. But he sounded like Booger from.
Oh yeah, he does. Maybe
yeah,
Booger's based on this nerd.
Oh really?
Could be.
There's 2 nerds: curly hair nerd with glasses, super nerd with glasses, or curly hair nerd with glasses. I guess that's 3. But.
What about in Revenge of the Nerds 2 when Ogre becomes a nerd?
He's like a part-timer.
Yeah.
He's like, I am a real nerd American. It's like...
I like any movie that has the characters named Booger and Ogre. You're telling me this movie has Booger and
So you
Ogre?
probably like Lord of the Rings. I'm sure that's one of the Uruk-hai's names.
Or one of the dwarfs.
Yeah.
Your favorite.
That's what Bilbo Baggins hates. It's like, 15 birds in a motherfucking tree. It's like, Jesus. Traffic jam in the water boat style. I'm like, so...
The hunt begins.
Water doesn't have lanes. You could go wherever the fuck you want, but instead everybody's like... I'm like, huh.
They had shark fever.
They turned into dum-dums because they were starting to turn the water in chum-chum. They were chumming the water like madmen and throwing dynamite. That part didn't get me because the shark wasn't even seen yet.
They're like,
yeah, some guy just randomly throws a dynamite and it blows up right next to somebody else's boat. And I'm like...
bunch of liquored up seamen.
Yeah. Richard Dreyfuss is horrified. It was a shark. Because he's like doing the autopsy and he's like, this wasn't a fucking propeller accident. This was a fucking shark. And it's like...
Whoa.
He's like, plays it really well.
Yeah.
I haven't really watched Richard Dreyfuss in anything else except for like, What About Bob?
Yeah.
Like, what else has he been in?
American Graffiti. Directed by George Lucas.
American Graffiti X.
Mr. Holland's Opus, which I've never seen, but I think that was one of his big ones.
I think that was one that kind of like blew up. But
I forgot. He kind of reprised his role in Piranha 3D a few years ago, which that movie's actually good.
That's hilarious.
Christopher Lloyd's also in that.
He's supposed to be at a convention coming up, I think, that we were looking
Really?
into. Yeah, we should get him to sign a copy of Jaws. Smash it over his head. I thought he was great in this film, but
he's awesome.
I don't really know like what else he's been in that I've ever watched. You know what I mean? Like, I think after Jaws and other stuff.
Stand By Me, was he he did the narration?
Yeah, I think he was trying to.
Close Encounters.
That's right.
That's a big one.
Yeah, because he was like one of the main guys in that.
Yep.
That got fucking like hypnotized by the aliens or whatever. Not hypnotized. They show like a rubber shark that was caught and people were kicking it. Did you feel bad for that rubber shark? I actually did kind of feel bad for that shark because like it was like a shark that like, you know, obviously wasn't the real Jaws, and they beat the fuck out of it and shit. And like it looked like it was like a grandpa shark because you could barely see its teeth. He was like, it's like, man, they beat the shit out of him. My son is dead, and you knew it was dangerous. I'm like, yeah, I mean, like, he's taking the blame, but like he wanted to shut down the beach as soon as he found out about that lady. But the mayor was like, "Fuck you." Like. Brody's being way too nice. I would have thrown the motherfucker under the bus, but he never does. Like, not one time. It's probably why he has a job in the second film. But, like, he takes all the blame for it, and it's like, you know, it's bullshit. They cut open the shark, and lo and behold, there is no person inside. There's only a couple fish.
We didn't see the Kittner boy spill out all over the dock.
And milk, or whatever the fuck came out of his stomach.
Yeah, that was gross.
And like a license plate and like a tin can. I was like, find a boat, gonna go check the hole. And then like, I was like, fuck that. Like there's a fucking Jaws out there.
I know.
At night, it's like, when fucking
like, no thanks.
Van Sant was like, I'm gonna go march into the fucking King Dragon's lair at night when they're most powerful. You know, like fucking waving Old Glory with fucking 50 tanks. It's like...
Yeah, there's a few jump scares in this movie, but that one was by far the biggest for me.
But they're not like egregious, and they're not like bullshit. It's not like jump scare on jump scare on
they're
jump
not
scare.
cheap. They're super well done.
Yeah.
Like they earn the scare.
You've earned it. But like a head pops out, and it's like,
I was like, yeah.
He's like making a weird face, which I was kind of like, what?
He's like, my head was made of wax for some reason.
He's like, like, what? I'm pretty sure if you fucking got killed by a shark, you wouldn't have time to make a fucked up face.
It's like a roller coaster, like when you get the camera, like try to make a funny face.
You're like, fucking gonna die, and I'm like, fucking.
You're like,
I'm like, what is? I'm like, Wu-Tang. Like, it's like, huh? But obviously, I mean, it was still scary. It was just, you know, just pointing something out.
Yep.
Mayor actively going out of his way to make people go in the water. He's like, why the fuck aren't you in the water? This is bullshit. Get
another
out there
great
and
scene.
Swim. And then a shark is there, but it's kids with a cardboard fin. Which I'm like, I call bullshit on that. How the fuck did they get a piece of cardboard to not like disintegrate in the water? It had to have been something like 70s. This.
Cardboard was stronger back then.
Bullshit. Don't lie to me.
Just making excuses.
Don't make excuses. Find evidence.
I don't want any heroes.
I don't want science fiction. I want science fiction. I don't want any heroes. What was it? I don't want heroes.
I forget already.
Yeah, that's what it said. But like they do this prank, and like people are running under the water, but then it's like Jaws uses this like diversion to like attack some kids in the pond, and I was like,
at that point I'm thinking, who pranked who?
Yeah. It's like Jaws fucking gave him some clams under the table to fucking do this shit. Jaws comes up on land, and he's got like a trench coat like turtles, and he's like, fucking, you know, I'll give you guys some fucking money if you fucking pretend to be me. It's like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of like, what? It kind of reminded me of like shit that happens in like later horror films, but it wasn't like, it wasn't the point where I was like, this is stupid. I was just kind of like, very convenient. Shark went to the pond and bit off some dude's leg. Yep. That was like the fake leg you were talking about.
Yep.
Quint treating Hooper like shit. Yeah.
Yeah, when they actually get on the boat, and apparently like Robert Shaw was doing that in real life to Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah,
like,
he was like wasted all the time and treating him like shit apparently.
But I love the scene where Quint like chugs an entire beer.
Yeah.
And then Richard Dreyfuss like
drinks
has a little paper cup.
Yeah. He's drinking like coffee or water, and then he crushes it.
Little touches like that
are
what makes this movie amazing.
Yeah.
It's like,
I also like that like they're fighting essentially the whole time, and it's like essentially like the asshole, kind of like the dad versus like the nerd kind of thing, and then like they finally bond and stuff, and they're kind of like, you know, cool with each other. It's almost kind of like what's his face though is like more out of his element, obviously, like Brody, because he doesn't even know how to tie a knot, and at least like Hooper can do that, like because he's a marine biologist. They're just on different spectrums. It's like, you know. Yeah, it's like essentially like in Moneyball when like there's the coach and then there's the dude like Jonah Hill that like crunches the numbers. They're both involved with baseball, but one of them's on one side and one's on the other.
Yep.
Hooper makes faces. Those were funny, but yeah. I was like, he's like talk shit to him, and he's like, what's that?
Yeah.
They were using piano wire to fish, which I didn't know that was a thing, but like I was like, holy shit, dude. And it's like, that is like, okay, he snapped it. And he's just like, that could be anything. And he's like, well, not anything. He's like, it could have been like a marlin or a fucking, and he's like, it was piano wire, and he fucking like bit it. Like, no. And then we have one of the most iconic scenes in all of cinema entertainment. It's the most electrifying. Brody is chumming the water, talking to him and shit, and that's when like Jaws is like, oh, he like bites and fucking he turns around just in time to like see it, and he's like the way they shoot it, it's like iconic.
It's so good.
Yeah, you gotta see it.
Yeah, my dad told me like in theaters everyone lost their mind when that happened.
And they had to get like a bunch of people to come take them to mental hospital.
Yeah.
They were all
they all died. They had aneurysms.
They all lost their mind.
Literally.
I have lost my mind. Yeah. I am losing my mind of anger. And then, I don't know if you caught this. I had to check this, and this is true. But they go to use the radio, and it's Steven Spielberg on the radio.
Oh, I didn't know that.
When he's like, Mrs. Brody wants to contact her husband or whatever. That was Steven Spielberg.
Nice.
Like, this sounds like Steven Spielberg, and I looked it up, and it was. So.
Nice cameo.
He cameoed.
He did what M. Night Shyamalan should do. It was like stay off camera.
He walks on camera, and he's like, "Hello, true believers," like Stanley style. I would still rather prefer that than M. Night Shyamalan, where he's like, I'm going to be God in my fucking film. And I'm like, well, how about you learn how to act, Mini-Me? Because you fucking suck. We talked about the awesome scene of bonding, of comparing scars.
Yeah, it's probably the best scene in the movie.
Yeah.
It escalates into the USS Indianapolis speech, which is like riveting to listen to.
I was going to write it down here, but it's like literally like 10 pages long.
Yeah.
So you should just watch it. Yeah.
It's movie magic, man. And apparently, like, I've heard a story, I don't know if it's true, but Robert Shaw, like, the first time they filmed that, he was really drunk in real life. Yeah. And he couldn't, like, he kept screwing up.
Yeah.
And then he came back, like, first thing the next morning and, like, apologized and said, I won't let that happen again. And then he, like, nailed it.
Yeah. That's what
And it became one of the best scenes in movie history.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those deals where I think that he definitely struggled with alcoholism, and it doesn't show on screen, but I think it showed in the production because of all the stories you hear from, like, Richard Dreyfuss, like, fuck that guy. Well, I don't think he said fuck that guy, but he was definitely not happy with the way he was treated by another professional. I wouldn't have been either, but it's like, yeah, it's obviously he was dealing with shit, and alcoholism is a fucking disease. And if you have alcoholism, get help. But anyway,
but like that USS Indianapolis, like I can't think of a more horrifying event, like ever.
Yeah,
like it doesn't get worse than that. Like ultimate nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, being in that situation, to me, like just the idea of being out in the ocean and being like, oh, I could drown.
Yeah, that's scary enough.
Yeah, but to have like sharks. I almost wonder if there were people out there that were like about to drown and they were just like, just kill me.
Right.
And then the sharks were like, yep. Or people that
they're like obliged.
Wanted to be killed, but the sharks never killed them. But it's like, just that whole idea. It's like, yeah. It's like, I don't know. It's like a death on top of a death. It's like being set on fire and then you get lynched or something. It's like...
It's like getting killed by Steven Seagal, like overkill. You get killed 4 times over.
Or you get kicked once and you hit the wall and die.
Yeah.
It's like,
Where's Jawsy?
Chelsea. Oh, man. I did have this mashup of the Dr. Loomis fucking thing and Quint's thing that I was going to read off, but I don't know if I should. It's kind of a stretch. Because the only thing connecting them is the eyes or whatever.
A doll's eyes, black eyes.
But the thing that I found was that. So he says doll's eyes, and Quint says the blackest eyes, devil's eyes. So it's like they're both black eyes, but neither are peas. You know. So, but the thing at the end where he's just like 1,100 men went into the water, 306 men come out, and the sharks took the rest. June 29th, 1945. Anyway, we delivered the bomb. It's like,
wow.
Yeah. Holy shit, that shark popped up. I don't know what the fuck that is about.
Nice note.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh boys, I think he's come back for his noon feeding. I was like, Jesus.
Well, I love the ending of this movie. The whole thing with the barrels and like he's pulling more barrels than should be ever possible. It's just like so good. It's very cinematic.
It kind of goes like we were talking about earlier with like how Brody's a fuck up, kind of, because on the boat at least he's kind of useless to a degree. Like Hooper's legs get fucking like strapped by him with the cord, because like Quint's like watch his fucking legs, you know, and like they get snapped and he's like and he finally gets loose. But it's like that kind of shit where like even though Quint's shitting on Hooper, he's not making mistakes, but like Brody's making all kinds of fucking mistakes because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Out there. Yeah. That's why he's having him. It's like, why don't you have what's his face Chum? And he's like, no, he's driving, because even though he's shitting on him, he knows what he's doing, and fucking Brody doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. So all he can let him do is Chum, because he's paying for it too. So he's like this is my charter, so he lets him think that he's in charge, but he's not. The shark starts pulling the boat backwards, which is like okay. I think the thing that like that's the real like holy shit moment in this is, or one of them is when they have 3 barrels hooked up to him, and he's like, he's not, you know, he can't go under, and he does, and like he's like Hooper's like his, you know, have you ever seen a shark do this before? And he's like, no, and he's like truly like out of his element at this point.
It's a bad situation.
There's a part though where he's pushed the engine for no reason, and I looked this up. Like people Google this too apparently, but like in the like in one in like I guess like in the script in one of the drafts there was like a reason in the book why like he decides to just fucking destroy the engine. Like I guess the shark was like doing something, or like it was trying to like, I think it was to like make Jaws like pull him away or something like that, but that kind of gets lost in translation, and it just seems like he ruins the engine for no reason.
To me I think he was basically in a kill rage at that point and was like probably not thinking 100%.
Yeah, it just comes off, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it also, it's like, it makes sense why he destroys the radio to me, because he wants to get the fucking money himself. But I think less so, like the boat pushing it wasn't something where I was like, this is bullshit, like, but it was just kind of, it was like, so they decide to like put together the shark cage, and they went underwater, or what's his face, Richard Dreyfuss goes under there, and I was just like, this guy's like the bravest guy in the fucking movie.
So I saw a video a couple weeks ago, whenever Shark Week actually was. Yeah. Like they were filming something for some show, and a dude went down in a glass cage with a huge great white like swimming around.
He went in a meat cage.
And the great white like came up from the bottom and shattered through the cage, and the dude was like, "Ah!" And like luckily they got out of there. But
like, why did they make it out of glass?
Or like not glass, but probably plastic or vinyl or whatever.
They made it out of something.
It was a clear box.
Oh, I know they had Jackass people on there doing some weird shit. So they're like, let's make it out of fucking cardboard, and they put it in there, and it instantly falls apart, and the shark's like, Yeah, I mean, in this, it's like metal, and it starts to smash into it, and it's like he's like stabbing it and just trying to get the fuck out, and he eventually does and like hides. But it's like this was back when like I'm pretty sure shark cages, they're not as strong as they are now, but like shark cages also like showing one broken like that, like I'm sure anybody that watched it was like, holy fuck, that's what anybody be, I guess, if they watch a shark cage get destroyed with somebody in it with a shark. This also did like a thing where like sharks were shown to be like, they're like these fucking senseless killers, and it's like sharks are definitely like, they definitely like are the apex predator in the fucking ocean, but like I think a lot less people get fucking killed by sharks, you know what I mean, than like that's actually known. I mean, obviously back then that became like a huge thing and stuff, because it's like when Exorcist came out, a lot of people were like scared of being fucking like, taken over by demons or, that kind of shit. Yeah. But, Quint like slides into the shark's open mouth.
And one of the most horrific movie deaths I've ever seen.
He like just gives up on life.
Dude, that messed me up as a kid. Like, it's first of all, like
as a kitten,
you don't expect Quint to die because he's like the ultimate shark hunter, but also he's like screaming, and like a ton of blood's coming out of his mouth, and then you see his lifeless corpse get dragged under the deep.
He's dead before fucking he goes underwater. Yeah,
it's like, good God,
he's screaming and then he's dead. Like the next scene, he's just like, he's not smiling, but he's dead. But you know who is smiling? That son of a bitch.
Nice.
Yeah. Fucking
he gets turned into mystery meat.
He's got like a little something in his mouth, a fucking canister, like a little fucking piece of food he couldn't get out, and Brody says, "Smile, you son of a bitch."
It is funny that in the Jaws sequels they have to find increasingly like convoluted ways of killing sharks. So.
Don't they like stab him with the ship at one point? Yeah, it's like.
In Jaws 2, he like puts a live wire into the shark's mouth. He's like,
yeah,
and it's so funny.
It's kind of like as like the Halloween movies and all these other films happened. It's like
they become more slashers.
Yeah. And became like more like ridiculous ways to kill people and the shark at the end. Which I guess, I don't know.
Cruel Jaws, where the dude poured gasoline on himself and then blew up.
He was like that dude he was like that monk that burned himself alive in like Tiananmen Square or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like happy Quint got blowed the fuck up, but they at least ask about him. I'm like, I don't think that's the case. They did ask about him, but I think like I was saying, like if it was like a movie made nowadays, they wouldn't even talk about him. Just be over. But like he comes up and he's just like, "What happened to Quint?" And he's like, "No, he's dead." Mm-hmm. Which I appreciated that they talk about a character that was in the film for like most like the last hour of the film was essentially that boat. Like, I don't know. It's just nice when like characters are acknowledged. Where like I've seen so many horror films where like once someone's dead, they're gone. It's like they're not in the script anymore.
Yeah.
And then I forgot about this part, but they like kick back to shore on barrels.
Yeah.
So
just keep kicking.
Yeah. The only trivia I had here was I think like there was more trivia, but I mean this part was like Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss could not stand each other, and the two argued all the time, which resulted in some good tension between Hooper and Quint. Mm-hmm. So, I agree.
Great movie.
Yeah. What do you think about this film?
I love it. It's one of the all-time greats.
True. It was great to watch. Yeah,
great white.
Good great white. Great redneck coat, Ernest P. Worrell. What would you give this film?
I'd give it a 9. I'd give it a 9.95.
Yeah, I don't know if I could give it anything less than a perfect grade, honestly.
Yeah, it's, there's a reason why it's
iconic.
Classic.
It's legendary.
My only one last note is
Roger
Ebert loved it, gave it 4 stars, and
4 fins.
He's like 4 fins up,
and I'm like, what'd he say?
That it was instant classic, basically.
That was the only thing you wrote on a page.
It's like instant classic, 4 stars. I'm out. Peace.
He's like, gotta go take a shit. Everyone's like, what? Did he say anything specific or?
No, I mean just it's super scary.
That he liked
great
stuff. Yeah.
Super well written. Spielberg directed the heck out of it. I mean,
Spielberg directed this film.
It was all praise.
All praise. No meat. It's all fat, no meat. Cool, man. Yeah, good stuff. So I guess next week is me?
Mike Week.
So next week, I recently was able to acquire this film. It was The Killer from 1989 with John Woo. So
you're picking up. It's a Matt pick.
Yeah.
Nice.
So well,
have you seen that before?
No. I like John Woo. I mean, he did like Face Off and Hard Boiled and stuff. So, and I looked through his stuff a long time ago, trying to figure out what else he had. And this ranked pretty high, so I was like, I like the idea of it too. So
wow, that's literally was on my list to do at some point.
Well, there you go.
So,
but it sucks because it was like hard to come by, like Criterion versions. You can't find it anywhere, and it's like, but
Kyle's basement.
Yeah, Kyle's basement. I'm gonna have to do like you because I can't. I fucked up and didn't do like a weird watches.
TBD.
So to be determined for weird watches, but The Killer, and I think it was 1980 something.
89, I think.
89. And it's Chow Yun Fat, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a fucking hitman that like wants to do good on his last job.
Some people consider it John Woo's best.
Will we? See.
Only one way to find out.
Hard.
I hope nothing happens.
Hard to beat, hard boiled.
That's true.
That'll be one we'll have to watch again too because I haven't seen that one in a long time. Been a while. But we have a change, and as I always say, the these will be out on YouTube on Mondays, but it's actually these will be out on Tuesday on YouTube. I want to have the extra day to edit them up and stuff, and possibly add clips in and stuff. So I'm going to give myself that. But you can talk to us on Instagram and Twitter. SteakBelmont64 on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. Do you have anything you want to say as far as like, Matt doesn't really have social media, so anything you say to me, I'll tell him. Like, fuck Mike. I'm like, hey, they told me to fuck myself. You're like, I agree.
That was me.
Yeah. You create a social media just to tell me to eat shit. I'm like, that was cruel, Jaws.
Don't be cruel, Jaws.
Yeah. So do you have anything else to say?
I think that after putting some thought into it, have just one final thing to say. And that is, you can't see where that is. Bye!